When Kaizer Chiefs appointed Cavin Johnson as the head of scouting and youth development, it was met with a lot of skepticism because a lot of us thought that, wait a minute, Johnson is coming in and Zeg is not doing well. So surely Kaizer Chiefs are setting up Cavin Johnson to be ready to take over from Tsegi in case they fire Tsegi. Reason being, Tsegi was not performing well, and also Tsegi was a panic signing at the beginning of the season. So most of us thought this is the end game. They planned to put Cavin Johnson in that position all along. And a few weeks later, we were kind of proven correct, but we might even be proven even more correct. I don't even know if there's such a thing as more correct. And we'll talk about that because now there's a report that says Kaizer Chiefs want to keep Cavin Johnson as the permanent coach. What? Hello and welcome to Kosi Nation Fan TV. I am Pelo. I'm your host, and this is where fans meet and talk about Kaizer Chiefs. Amakosi Football Club. This whole thing, these shenanigans that are being pulled by Kaizer Chiefs are not new. We know this. We've seen this before. It's a movie. Remember when Stuart Baxter was removed from the coaching position? Who was put as the assistant coach? It was Arthur Zwane. Only to find that it was actually being put there to be readied for the following year, where he was then made the permanent coach. So what actually happens with Kaizer Chiefs, to me, it seems like whoever is the interim coach is actually auditioning to be the permanent coach. And I know people will immediately say, of course, Mpilo, what if a person obviously does well? Would you take them out of that senior coaching position? Then in my head, I'm like, kind of, yeah, because in a way, that was not your plan. And it tells me that as a club, you actually don't have a plan of how you want to make things work. So, in essence, what ends up happening is that you try this and then it works and then you stick with it. You don't go according to your plan, which is we want this type of coach. We're going to put this type of coach in the team to do this and that and that and that. But instead, you're just saying, let's see if this works. If it works, then it works. That's not planning. That's just saying, let's see where fate takes us. And I don't think that's a good idea. But there are also pros of this thing. We're going to go through all the pros and also all the cons. Starting with the pro. The pro of this whole thing is obviously the thing that obviously if Kaizer Chiefs don't want to rush appointing a new coach, it kind of makes sense. Well, not kind of, it does make sense because the last thing you want is to panic sign someone because we're in desperate need of a new coach. Because if you think about it, there is also AFCON, so there's going to be a huge break between in January, so there's not going to be much. And this new coach that we have, Johnson, can coach the game. Cape Town Spurs can coach the game. Swallows, Cape Town Spurs, Pirates, Swallows, and the 2 or 3 games in December. I know we're further down the log, but it's better to just wait and hire the proper coach and then know that he will have the whole January to prepare the team. And then in February, we come back and we're trying to finish in a better position between February and when the season ends. But if we're rushing it right now, then we get a wrong coach again, and then we're just going to do horrible, and probably that coach will end up getting fired before the end of the season. And the other, obviously, pro, some people will say it's because already Cavin Johnson is proven to be good as a South African coach and also in working with the young players. We remember what he did with the Platinum Stars. He kind of got players that were no-name players. There were some players like Vuyomere who were very good players, but there were some players who just came up, Abongele and other players that were in the team. Then Sundowns got Ungele and then the player was bad. But anyways, that's not the point. The point is, Cavin Johnson has been proven to be a good coach in South Africa. And people are going to ask, how many cups has he won? Can he coach a team like Kaizer Chiefs? Obviously, we'll see with the games that he's given how he does with those games. Me, I'm all for not rushing as long as we are not just saying, let's not rush because maybe that one might do well. Because you hired this man to be the head of technical and youth development. Let him do his job and bring someone who is going to do that coaching job, because the cons, I have 4 of them here. The first one is the fact that if you look at this thing, obviously it's going to make us not trust Kaizer Chiefs even more, because that means they're not transparent with us. They hired someone and they said to us they're hiring him for development, the youth, and all that stuff. And all of a sudden, he's transitioned into being the senior coach of the team, interim, and then next thing, he's the permanent senior coach. Same thing that happened with Zwane. He was down there as the youth development, and then he came up assistant, and then he was the main coach, or was the interim, then was the coach, which kind of tells me that, well, then these things that they are doing, they are not straight, that we want this kind of coach and we're going to appoint them, but they meander and see if it works, which goes back to what I was saying earlier on. You have to have a plan. You can't just be saying, let's see if this works. Number 2, which basically is just chance taking. Number 2 is the fact that if Cavin Johnson doesn't do well, let's just say, God forbid, he loses against Cape Town Spurs. They've already beaten our noisy neighbors. Then we lose against Pirates, which will be unfathomable. And then we go ahead to lose against Swallows, or we don't get a good result. We play against Sekhukhune. Wait, is it Sekhukhune? Polokwane City in December and another team in December. I forget who they are. Imagine that. Now fans are mad because those games, with the game against Polokwane City, will be, guess where? In Polokwane, obviously. And those fans get mad and they will throw things at you. Those guys get mad and they will throw things at you. So I do think that if the Calvin Johnson thing doesn't work, they are also just setting him up for failure, but not just him, but also for them, because now they will have to come up with something and try to sign someone, because the experiment of theirs did not work. You cannot really be experimenting with a team that's in this position. Number 3 is the fact that you are setting a bad precedent, right? You are just getting us, or getting everyone used to the fact that Chiefs will appoint someone as an interim coach, and then we know that the next step is for them to be the senior coach. So Chiefs will now be that team that never appoints coaches straight up, but will be the team that kind of gets coaches into the technical team, then from the technical team into being the senior coach, which means they are not fully confident about the coach himself. Like Ntsegi, he was never the appointee, the number one choice to lead the team. But he was there as head of technical, and then from being head of technical to being senior coach. Same thing I said about Zwane. Now it's happening with Cavin Johnson. Actually, it's actually not even setting a bad precedent. It's just continuing with this bad precedent that, hey, you come to Chiefs through other doors into your way of being a coach. You kind of get groomed into being the senior coach, which I think is ridiculous. Wait, what's not ridiculous? What is not ridiculous is you liking the video and you subscribing to the channel before I go to the last point. Please, 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 do like the video, do subscribe to the channel. Have you noticed, by the way, how I've just turned my energy all the way down? I mean. Anyways, another thing is the fact that if you have this interim coach who's coaching the team until the end of the season, then what you are having is some players looking at him and thinking, like, take a player like Pulemondi. Pulemondi was one of the victims, I would call, of the new coach coming in, because what has happened now is clear that Modi was not even in the bench in the game against Arrows. Mtu Shabalala is back. Matlo did not even play, and it doesn't seem like, well, he did play in the second half, but he didn't start the game. So you have some players who are going to say, this one is not selecting me, but he's not even the senior coach. There is a coach who's coming. And I think the better way to say is that you don't want to have uncertainty in the team. But I think how Chiefs will overcome this is by saying, you know what, after he wins, let's say 4 or 5 games in a row, then they will say, breaking news, Kaizer Chiefs have decided to make Calvin Johnson the permanent coach of Kaizer Chiefs, which will kind of do away with this thing of seeing a coach as an interim and not necessarily as the senior coach. But what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Should Kaizer Chiefs continue experimenting with Cavin Johnson, or should they be looking for a coach? Straight up. Let me know down on the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, remember, equals Alpelumoya.